woodchucks for you. My ex-father-in-law always used to say that. He was one. He was funny. He was a badass. Fought in Vietnam. Hurt his knees, and but lived up in the hills. He was a great hunter. He had a big tract of land, and but it was funny because he knew what I was thinking, and so he would just say what he thought I was thinking.
Economics lost.
Well, certainly in terms of gender, that seems to be one of the major battlegrounds.
Yeah. It's also going to happen with the blank slate theory. Are we nature or are we nurture?
Yes.
It's kind of socially unacceptable to say that a lot of it is nature and not nurture, or vice versa, depending on which side you're on.
Right.
Those kinds of discussions get corrupted.
They do get corrupted, and it's really unfortunate because that's an unbelievably important thing to understand. Like, what makes a person a sociopath? What makes a person a super successful person, a winner? What makes a person a drug addict? What are these factors?
You can't have a reasonable conversation about climate science anymore. It's not a science. It's all politicized.
You can't even bring it up.
Everyone's got their minds made up already.
Well, what's uncomfortable to me is people have their minds made up and they don't even have the data.
On most of these topics, people are talking past each other anyway. They're talking about different things. Like when you get into, when you get into gun control, for example, right? One side is talking about the right to bear arms in case a tyrannical ruler or king tries to take over the country. The other side is talking about school shootings and protecting people in their homes, right, from crime. So they're just talking about two different things,
right?
And it's just not politically acceptable to even talk about the same thing. Or when it gets to immigration, the right is talking about, the left is like bundling together illegal immigration and legal immigration into one thing.
Yes.
Right. Whereas on the right, sometimes you've got racists hiding in there, so it doesn't help their cause. Right. They're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
If they were talking about the same thing, which is how many immigrants should we let into the country, and what are the criteria for that, that would be a very different conversation than no immigrants or everybody comes in. And then also on the left, you have this benefit that everybody who's currently coming in illegally is going to vote for the left because of where they're coming from and their socioeconomic circumstances. To me, the test of any good system is you build a system, hand it over to your enemies to run for the next decade. So, for example, if you want a censorship on Twitter or Facebook, you should build that system and then hand it over to the other side to run. So if you're a left-winger who's promoting censorship, that's somebody else running. Same with immigration. If you want an immigration system, build a system, then hand it over to the other side to run it. That's how you know it's a good system.
There's no room for nuance when you're dealing with these political battlegrounds. When you're dealing with right versus left, and one side has a clearly established stance that you're supposed to take. Like gun control is a great example of that, right? There's no room for what about mental health? What about the fact that so many of these people are on psych medications?
Right.
Why is that not being discussed?
We're running one of the greatest mental health experiments in history. We're doping everybody up in SSRIs.
Right? Yeah.
And, maybe if you give 30 million people SSRIs, maybe like 29.9 million are a lot happier. And then you have a fraction that commit suicide or detonate.
Yes.
Right? You're basically trading the mean for the variance.
Right.
You have blow-up risk. Yeah, there's no room for nuance, which is why I stay out of politics, largely.
Do they drag you in, though, sometimes?
They always try.
Well, this conversation is going to force you to get dragged in.
Sure, but
I'm sure there's going to be some people that...
Here's the thing about politics. Because we have a first-past-the-post system. What that means is that whoever wins 51% of the vote in this country gets a lot of the power, right?
What kind of temperature do you have out here?
Representation where the Greens are 10%, Libertarians are 3% or whatever. It's just like you're all Democrat in power, now we're all Republican. Because of that, to win, you have to pick one of these two sides, right? You have to choose. You can't just make it. You can't just basically say I'm going to be nuanced about it. You can't vote for a third party that's throwing away your vote. Right? I have a friend who's trying to fix that. He started this thing called the good party, where you kickstart your votes. You combine all your votes, you hold them in reserve, and then when you have enough to win, then you vote that person in power. Right? You don't throw away your vote. But outside of those hacks, we're never going to get a third party elected. So because of that, all of your beliefs have to neatly fit into the Democrat bundle or the Republican bundle. And so when you get into that tribe, if you signal outside of that out of that bundle, you get attacked.
This road reminds me of like an extreme Highway 105 back in Denver, Castle Rock area.
If all of your beliefs line up into one political party, you're not a clear thinker. If all your beliefs are the same as your neighbors and your friends, you're not a clear thinker. You're literally your beliefs are socialized. They're taken from other people. So if you want to be a clear thinker,
those guys knows what's up. They're full leather kit up.
What dread.
Most of modern life, all our diseases are diseases of abundance, not diseases of scarcity, right? Old times I may have starved. Old times if I got sugar, that was a wonderful thing. I should have eaten all the sugar to get my hands on. If I gotten a piece of news or gossip, that was interesting data. That would have helped my life and moved me forward. If I'd gotten some brief amount of entertainment, whether through video games or magazines or whatever, that would have been good. Now it's all disease of abundance. You're overexposed to everything. So the way to survive in modern society is to be an ascetic. It is to retreat from society. There's too much society everywhere you go. Society in your phone, society in your pocket, society in your ears. You're being socialized right now by listening to this podcast. We're socializing you. We're programming you. Everyone's trying to program everybody. The only solution is to turn it off.
The only solution is to turn it off and concentrate on your breathing.
Meditation, yeah.
Yes.
It works. It's been a lifesaver for me.
Oh, I do it, and I do it whenever I get spare time. I was at the doctor's office this morning, and I knew it was going to be 20 minutes, so I just sat there with my eyes closed for 20 minutes and I meditated.
When I was growing up, there was a statement. I think it was Pascal. He said, "All of man's problems arise because he sits by himself in for 30 minutes alone."
I saw some in Joshua Tree area on my motorcycle once. It was crazy.
Boredom was dead. I would never be bored again. Even if I'm standing in line.
I had to stand up on the pegs.
And when I was a kid, I used to try and overclock my brain. Be like, how many thoughts can I think at once? And the answer is only one. But I would try to think multiple thoughts at once. And I was proud of that. I was proud that my brain was always running. This engine was always moving. And it's a disease. It's actually the road to misery. And now that I'm older, I realize you actually want to, again, rest your mind. You want to learn how to settle into your mind. Now, I look forward to solitary confinement. You leave me alone for a day, it'll be like the happiest day I've had in a while. And that is a superpower that I think everybody can attain.
The superpower of learning to be alone and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's critical, and I do think that these times where you just think about things, just be alone and think about things, are so rare these days. And I think during those rare times is when you really get to understand what you actually believe or don't believe.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first started meditating, it was really hard, right? Because I think a lot of people listen to
I don't know if you want to do those at 100 miles an hour.
Has good reps or minimize it. They struggle.
I don't know if you want to go through that.
Kind of give it up.
It's
one of those things that everybody says they do, but nobody actually does. nuts, right? It's like not eating sugar, right? Everyone talks about how, I don't eat sugar, but like, then the dessert tray rolls around and everyone's going for the cookies. Right?
Yep.
So it's become one of those things, and in fact, it's now even become a signaling thing, where it's like, oh, how much did you meditate? I meditated this much. Or, there are people now wearing headbands saying, with Tweety birds that chirp when they're in deep meditation. I don't know how they make it work, but they'll be like, I got a lot of chirps today. How many chirps did you get?
Oh,
right?
God.
Oh, your meditation technique is wrong. Mine is right. But really, all it is the art of doing nothing. Okay? And it's important because I think when we grow up, right, there's all this stuff happening to you in your life. And some of it you're processing, some of it you're absorbing, and some of it you should probably think a little bit more about and work through, but you don't have time. So it gets buried in you, and it's all these preferences and judgments and unresolved situations and issues. And it's like your email inbox, just piling up, email after email after email that's not answered, going back 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And then when you sit down to meditate, those emails start coming back and you, hey, what about this issue? What about that issue? Have you solved this? Did you think about that? You have regrets there? You have issues there? And that gets scary. People don't want to do that. So like, it's not working. I can't clear my mind. I better get up and not do this. But really what's happening is it's self-therapy. It's just that instead of paying a therapist to sit there and listen to you, you're listening to yourself. And you just have to sit there as those emails go through one by one. You work through each of them until you get to the magical inbox 0. And there comes a day when you sit down, you realize the only things you're thinking about are things that happened yesterday. Because you've processed everything. It's not necessarily even resolved it, but at least listened to yourself. And that's when meditation starts. And I think it's a very powerful thing that everybody should experience. That's when you arrive upon the art of doing nothing.
Well, I think it's even a problem that most people are getting their meditation from an app.
I will not use it.
It's sneaky. I mean, Sam Harris is a very good meditation app, I should say that. But you should be able to just do it. And many people can't.
It is literally the art of doing nothing.
Yes.
So all you need to do for meditation is just sit down, close your eyes, comfortable position. Whatever happens, happens. If you think, you think. If you don't think, you don't think. Don't put effort into it. Don't put effort against it. It's all you need.
Do you concentrate on your breath, or
Nothing.
do you have a specific technique? Nothing.
No, you just
sit.
You just sit.
I think about my breath. That's all I do. I try to only concentrate on breathing.
I used to do that, but at some level, all the concentration, every meditation technique is leading you to the same thing, which is just witnessing.
Yes.
And concentration is a technique to still your mind enough that you can then drop the object of concentration. So you could also just try going straight to the end game. The problem with what I'm talking about, which is not focusing on your breath, is you will have to listen to your mind.
It's clear through here.
It's not going to work unless you do at least an hour a day, and preferably at least 60 days before you kind of work through a lot of issues. So it will be hell for a while, but when you come out the other side, it's great.
You get rid of the chatter.
Or when the chatter comes, it's in the background, it's dimmer, it's smaller, you've heard it before, you see the patterns, it's more recent, it's something you need to resolve anyway, and
This is a fun road.
Of actual silence.
What's your ultimate state when you meditate? Like, is there a state
It's
where you've
different. It's
achieved
cool.
rarely, if ever, where you just you're in bliss, or you're in harmony, or you're in enlightenment? Like, what?
It's kind of indescribable, because when you're really meditating, you're not there. When there's no thoughts, there's no experience, there's nothing. There's just nothing. So it's hard to describe.
It's
I would
icy.
say that
Watch out.
it's like you can definitely every psychedelic state that people encounter using so-called plant medicines can be arrived at just through pure meditation. And I've definitely hit some of those states.
You've hit some transcendent psychedelic states where you're hallucinating the whole deal.
I've had trippy visuals, I've had the kind of lights and colors, I've had the so-called downloads, I've had the realizations, I've had the bliss, I've had the light, I've had the colors.
But not every time.
No, it's rarely. And in fact, I would say that's also like an experience that you can start craving, which will then actually take you out of meditation. Where you really, and I'm not enlightened or anything close to it, so I'm not even in the ballpark, but my own experience, and this is just personal experience, is the place where I end up the most, that is really the one that I want to be at, is peace. It's just peace.
Peace, happy.
Yeah, peace, to me, peace is happiness at rest. Happiness is kind of peace in motion. You can convert peace to happiness anytime you want, but peace is what you want most of the time.
That's interesting. You can convert peace to happiness anytime you want.
If you're a peaceful person, anything you do will be a happy activity. And And by the way, being on social media, engaging in politics will not bring you peace.
There's nothing less peaceful.
Right. And
In today's day and age,
That's what I'm saying.
the
there.
way we think you get peace is by resolving all your external problems. There's unlimited external problems. So the only way to actually get peace is on the inside by giving up this idea of problems.
who thinks you can get peace by resolving external problems? Other than politicians.
Everybody. That's what
Really?
everybody's struggling to do,
Yeah.
right? Why are you trying to make money? To solve all your money problems.
Mm.
Why are you trying to win at politics? Because then you'll be at peace because your people will have won.
Whew. It's a daunting task to get your shit together.
It's easier to change yourself than to change the world.
That's true. And the best way to change the world is to change yourself.
Exactly. That's all. It's all these people who are shouting on social media. The best way is just to actually live the life that you want other people to live. Like I went out in New Zealand, and there's this guy that I met with. And, everyone's on social media shouting about environmentalism and conserve and sustain. And I go to this guy's house, and he was doing very quietly, very gently, he was doing a 2-week-long zero waste experiment where he was throwing out nothing. So every package that he opened, he would keep, and he would clean it up. So he would keep his Amazon boxes, he would keep the little container. Even a tea bag, if you open the tea bag, he has to figure out how to compost the tea inside, how to make the tea itself useful, how to make a tea bag like a little storage item. So there was no trash. He was literally living with zero trash and waste, and he was doing it, and it was really inspirational. Meeting people like him made me far more environmentally conscious than any amount of people yelling at me on social media ever will.
How long did he do that for?
I think it was 2 weeks. It was hard.
What the fuck are you gonna do with tea bags?
He had quite the collection.
Floods.
The tea bag
He was
was-
filling them with little things.
He
Yeah.
sounds like a crazy hoarder, like a hoarder person. Stacks of tea bags in his house.
Very impressive.
Yeah, that's a strange way to go about things. I appreciate it though. I mean, look, it is entirely possible to somehow or another engineer all of our cups and all of our things and all of our to be biodegradable.
The struggle with the modern environmental movement is that they identify the correct problem, which is finite Earth, spaceship Earth. This is all we got. Don't ruin it. But they don't have the solution. So what they say is no growth, no growth, no growth. Well, the problem is you got 3 billion Indian and Chinese who aren't going to stay in poverty. They're going to grow whether you like it or not. So you can yell at them, you can scream at them, you can yell at us and scream at us, but that's not going to happen. So the only way out, unfortunately, is again through technology, which is you have to build green technology. I give Musk a lot of credit, for being one of the few people who's out there trying to do that. So you build things that are biodegradable and good for you and healthier. Everybody wants to be healthier. Chinese want to be healthier. Indians want to be healthier. They want to be cleaner. If you say, I can clean up your rivers, I can clean up your forests, I can have your children not get sick with cholera and diphtheria and typhoid, I can cure your diseases, I can help make your immune system stronger.
It's almost like a race
Drinking
track.
water, that is what causes people to become environmentalists. Not shouting and screaming at them that they shouldn't grow and they should stop pumping things into the sky. They have no concept of that. They're just trying to get out of poverty. So I think the modern environmental movement identifies the correct problem, but then doesn't come up with the right set of solutions that are appealing to people. People are not going to give up economic growth. They're going to have to get rich first.
That's a very good point. But how do you do both?
You lower the price of clean technologies massively. So you basically make clean technologies cost competitive
Through
with
subsidies?
unclean technologies. Innovation, ideally, you can subsidize in the short to medium term until the innovation curve is crossed. I mean, like Tesla doesn't have any patents, right?
Right.
Or they freely give away their patents. That's the example of how you can do it. If you want to get rid of plastic straws, yeah, you can do it here and there. You can get San Francisco to ban plastic straws, but China's not going to ban plastic straws. Not until you build a paper straw that is, same cost, good durability, and then you educate Chinese like, hey, this is petroleum. This plastic, if you're drinking this petroleum, this is bad for you. Here's the chemical composition. Here's the things that are going in your bloodstream, and they want healthy, happy kids also. So they gotta have their kids use paper straws. Maybe straws aren't the best example, but you can, this is true with fossil fuels, for example. That's probably the best. Or replacing a lot of plastics with glass and paper and so on.
Yeah, there's a new technology that was just Rhonda Patrick had it on her Twitter today about they're able to convert plastic waste into fuel, and that there's companies that are actively trying to do that now. So then in that way, plastic waste will become valuable.
Right.
It'll become a commodity. It'll become something that people, a resource.
Now, there's certain problems this doesn't solve. This doesn't solve carbon. This doesn't solve deforestation. So there you kind of have to step in with other means. So, for example, you look at the Amazon, right? Everyone's complaining about the Amazon being deforested. Well, you're not the poor Brazilian farmer.
Right.
So you're sitting here in your comfortable chair, like social media hammering away at the evil Brazilians for deforesting the Amazon. But the Amazon has incredible resources. If we really care about it, we should turn it into an incredible tourist park and put your money where your mouth is. Start doing ecotourism in the Amazon and start paying for it. And then maybe take the future rights for all the pharmaceuticals that are going to come out of all the incredible plants there and start selling those off so that maybe give the pharmaceutical companies an incentive to preserve the biodiversity of the Amazon. Say, hey, if you buy this patch of the Amazon, you conserve it, and you conserve it, whatever plant medicines that come out of there that you can then license, you get the patent for 20 years or 30 years or whatever. So I think there are solutions where we, as the first worlders who have money, can put our money where our mouth is and go and rescue these kinds of properties.
That's a very interesting solution, but I can see immediate pushback from people that don't think the pharmaceutical company should have rights to this natural plant.
Okay, or the government does it, and then the government gets the patents, and the government will auction off the patents later, or they'll license them, or whatever it is, right?
Well, often, like just this, often the problem is there is no really good solution. There's a bunch of solutions that also have drawbacks.
That's life.
Yes.
Right? That's the trade-off. So
that's being a human. It's very messy.
Yeah, it's a constrained environment. Obviously, I skew more towards a private property capitalist type solutions because even though they're not perfect, they have been proven to actually work. Right? Once something is your property, you take care of it.
Yes.
Right? You're not going to crap all over your own house. But it should probably be temporary property, not permanent property. You see a lot of countries around the world now doing this no foreign ownership of land thing, for example. Or Mexico has no private ownership of beaches, right? So you can draw the line at certain points.
Yeah. Do you enjoy doing this kind of thing, where you break things down and give your perspective on things and try to illuminate certain complex subjects?
I'm not trying to illuminate so much as, talking to you, I learn as much as I say, and I learn it from myself because I'm being forced to articulate it. Right? I can sit around and think my thoughts all day long, but a lot of it's going to be nonsense. It's not because there are gaps in thinking where you make leaps because you're kind to yourself that you don't realize you're making. But when you're forced to write it down, this is why I tweet, or when you have to talk to somebody, you have to complete those gaps and make it a proper punctuation. And the mistake that I made when I was young was, I always wanted to seem like the smartest kid in the room. Just like you probably want to seem like the funniest kid in the room or the toughest kid in the room, right? We're all losers starting out. We want to be winners, so we pick the thing we're good at and we double down on it. So I always wanted to be the smartest kid in the room. So what did I do? I read a lot of books. I memorized a lot of things. And then whatever I had memorized is pre-Google. I made it up. So it sounded good. Okay. Pre-Google. After Google, fact-checking started and I had to get better, right? So Google improved me that way.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Exactly. So now what I realize is that the big trying to live your life in congruence with reality, you want to have a deep understanding of what you do and why you do it. And so it's much more important to know the basics really well than is to know the advanced. Knowing calculus wouldn't help you today. It doesn't help you in business, doesn't help you in most things. But knowing arithmetic really will help you, really. And whether it's at the corner grocery store counting change, to figuring out the value of your podcast business, to figuring out how to do the probability math on some action that you want to take. So understanding basic mathematics cold is way more important than memorizing calculus concepts. And the problem problem is, and this is true of I think all reasoning, it's much better to know the basics from the ground up, solid foundation of understanding, a steel frame of understanding, than it is to just have a scaffolding where you're just memorizing advanced concepts. This is why there are a lot of people I'm sure that you listen to who are really smart. They use a lot of jargon, and you can't quite follow their reasoning. You don't know how they're putting things together, and you have this deep down suspicion they don't even really understand, right? So if you look at the most powerful thinkers, especially the ones where money or life is on the line, they have to understand the basics really, really well. Richard Feynman, the famous physicist, was able to, he had this piece in one of his lectures where he takes you from counting numbers on your hand all the way to calculus in 4 pages of text. Orally, but written down as 4 pages of text. And it's a complete unbroken logical chain that takes you through geometry, trigonometry, pre-calculus, analytic geometry, graphs, everything, all the way to calculus. He understood numbers at a core level. He didn't have to memorize anything. When you're memorizing
this road's pretty unforgiving if you're not paying attention.
You should be able to read about anything on the spot. And if you can't, you don't know it.
Decreasing radius
So
terms,
do you apply
off
that
camber
to
terms.
things other than mathematics? You apply it to everything.
Everything.
You don't even make attempt to memorize things. You just make attempt to understand them.
You can't help but memorize things.
Right.
But if you can't, this is where Twitter is great for me, is I try to understand something, and then I try to write it down in such a way that I can remember it. Just the basic hook that'll point towards the deeper understanding, and I'm forced to explain it to people. And that's how I know I understand something. So this is what I meant originally when we talked about reading. A good book, I'll read 1 page in a night, and then I spend the rest of the night thinking about it, or I'm chasing down references in Wikipedia or weird blog posts trying to understand it. So for example, there was I was dealing with this a few months back. I was dealing with a question of stupid topic, but the meaning of life, right? What's the meaning?
How could that be stupid, though?
Well, in a
it's
sense,
just trite.
It's trite. You're not supposed to think about it. It's something you ask your parents when you're young.
Yes.
They tell you don't worry about it, or they
Go
say
get a job, hippie.
Yeah, exactly. Go get a job, you freaking hippie. Or here's God. God is the meaning of life, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to resolve for myself, like, what could the answer be? Right? Not what is the answer, but what could the answer be? And so at a core level, I was forced to kind of hunt down all these weird little things and really understand for myself. It's got to be personal. I have to establish for myself what it could and could not be. And that gave me some level of peace. So now I don't have to keep asking the question.
What is the meaning of life?
I mean, I think the question is more interesting than the answer. Everyone should explore this on their own. But let me just explore a few parts with it, right?
Okay.
So first is, if I gave you an answer, if I said the meaning of life is to please God, well, which God?
Deep
Okay,
water
Judeo-Christian
crossing, watch
God.
out.
Well, okay, why that one? Why this thing? The problem is it's a why question. You can keep asking why forever, right? Any
Right.
answer I give you, you'll just ask why again, why again,
Right.
why
Like a
again.
kid.
That's right. And you end up in a place called Agrippa's trilemma. Okay, this is a philosophical exercise, but I kind of thought it through and I Googled around it. There's a thing called Agrippa's trilemma. And Agrippa's trilemma says that any questioning like this, why, will always end in one of 3 places. Okay? First is infinite regress, right? Why? Because of this. Why that? Why that? Just keep it going forever. The second is circular reasoning. Well, A. Why A? Because of B. Well, why B? Because of A. Right? You get trapped in that. Or the third is an axiom. And the most popular axiom is God. But it could be anything because of math, because of science, because of the Big Bang, because of simulation. Right? These are all axioms. These are all just stopping points. Saying simulation, we're in a simulation, or saying it's the Big Bang is just another way of saying God. God's a dirty word, so we don't use it as much anymore, but same thing. So you end up in one of these 3 dead ends, essentially, right? So there is no answer. The real answer is because. Right?
What is the meaning of life?
Yeah, you get to make up your own answer is the beauty. If there was a single answer, we would not be free. We would be trapped. Because then we would all have to live to that answer. Then we'd be Borg-like robots, each one competing with each other to fulfill that single meaning more than the others. Back to signaling, like I'm better at it than you are. But luckily there is no answer. So you just do whatever you want.
The meaning of life. It's funny that that's the basis of all existential angst. That
You don't know why you're here.
and you have this feeling that it could be meaningless. It is. I mean, when you start pondering the multiverse, the universe, the galaxies, the solar system, the planet, the organism, the cells inside the organism, the bacteria, the parasites, the symbiotic relationship we have to our environment. And you start going, Jesus Christ, what? Am I just a little piece of this thing? It's like,
Well, the answers to all the great questions are paradoxes.
yeah.
So, for example, you're asking, like, do I matter? That's like really the question you asked, right? How do I matter in this infinite universe? Well, on the one hand, you're separate. No 2 points are the same. Every 2 points are infinitely different. You're completely separated. No one will have your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your experience. So your life is a single player game. You're trapped inside your head. You're just aware of a bunch of things going on, and that's it. On the other hand, I cannot say the word Joe Rogan without invoking the entire universe. Joe Rogan, alien comes along, says, what's that? Joe Rogan. What's Joe Rogan? It's a human. What's a human? Bipedal ape. What's an ape on the Earth? What's the Earth planet? What's a planet? Solar system. Where was the carbon made? Inside stars, right? He said, I have to create the entire universe to just say the words Joe Rogan. So in that sense, you're connected to everything. It's inseparable. So the answer to that question of do I matter is I am nothing and I am everything. You'll find this with all the great questions. The answers are all paradoxes, which is why at some level it's sort of pointless to pursue them, to find a trite answer like I'm giving. But the act of pursuing them is actually really useful, because then it gives you certain intrinsic understanding in your life that brings a level of peace.
I feel like there's, with many people, this stress of this question is also accentuated by unhappy lives. It's accentuated by unhappy choices, by being trapped. There's a big difference between not knowing what the meaning of life is and, God, I gotta get the fuck out of this job. I can't live my life this way. What's the meaning of life if this is my life?
Which is why I always start with, let's get you rich first. Right? That's why I'm very practical about it, because look, Buddha was a prince. Okay, he started out really rich, and then he got to go off in the woods. And in the old days, what happened was, if you wanted to be peaceful inside, you would become a monk. You would renounce everything. You would become an ascetic. You would give everything up. You would renounce women, men. You'd renounce children. You'd renounce money. You'd renounce politics, science, technology, everything. And you would go out in the woods by yourself. And to give everything up to be free inside. Well, today we have this wonderful invention called money, where you can just store stuff up in a bank account. Okay, and you can basically save up. You can work really hard. You can do great things for society, and society will give you money for giving it things that it wants and it doesn't know how to get. And then you can save that up, and you can live well below with your means, and you can find a certain freedom in that. That will give you the time and the energy to pursue
K-Band 24.2 ahead.
Happiness. So I believe the solution to make it
K-Band auto
is to give
snooze.
them what they want. Let's get them all rich. Let's get them all fit and healthy, and then let's get them all happy.
Are those things even possible?
Absolutely.
Everyone can be rich?
Everyone can be rich.
Everyone.
Here's my thought exercise for you.
Now it seems like we're in an infomercial. Everyone can be rich.
I'm not selling
Look at
any-
my home. This is my Rolls Royce.
Yeah, no, so that's a good point.
Right.
So everything that I've ever created on this topic of how to make money, I will never charge $1 for. Because that would ruin it. That would show that I'm just another huckster who's trying to get rich off of you. There are no get rich quick schemes. That's just somebody else trying to get rich off of you, right? So to me, it's more of a philosophical contribution, where for it to have meaning and to be legit, I can't charge you anything for it. But yes, everybody can be rich. But let me give you a thought exercise. Okay. Imagine if tomorrow we could wave a wand and everybody was trained as a scientist or an engineer.
All
Everybody.
clear.
Even if you weren't very good, you had enough understanding of computers, you could write some code, you could build some hardware. And don't tell me people can't do it, because they can't. That's just the tyranny of soft expectations. That's just you looking down on somebody else. They can't do it. They just have to be educated. Now, if they're educated all as hardware, software engineers, scientists, biologists, technicians, hard sciences, not the social sciences, we would all be done within 5 years. Robots would be doing everything, from cleaning toilets to cooking food to flying airplanes to driving Ubers. And what would we be doing? We would be doing all creative jobs to entertain each other and researching science and technology. We would have wonderful lives. So it is really just a question of education, nothing else.
Is this a scale issue, though? I mean, you're talking about it as if this would work with 300 million people.
It'll work with 10 billion people. It'll work with a
Really?
spacefaring race of 100 trillion people. Just
We have the
build
resources.
stations.
We have the ability.
The universe is infinite resources. You build it, have you heard of a Dyson sphere? You build a Dyson sphere on a star and you gather all its energy. that there's so much energy out there. One asteroid's got all the minerals that we need. One sun, one solar system has got all the power we need for a long, long time. We can extract it out of nuclear fusion. We're not that far from those kinds of technologies working. It's just a question of guts and interest. Like, we should be building nuclear fusion test plants on the moon. The moon should be littered with death. It's no downside.
Right. Yeah. How would that work?
Well,
Is it send a bunch of people up there to work?
well, the problem with robots. The problem
Yeah.
with fission, nuclear fission, is that nature creates energy through nuclear energy, right? Like, the sun creates energy. Now, for transmission, we use photons because photons don't interact, and so photons are great for information transmission, but they're actually not great for energy transmission. For energy creation, you want nuclear to work.
Snooze
The problem
clear.
is because nuclear energy, we built it with a bomb, we had dirty nukes, all those kinds of problems, Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl. We don't innovate anymore. Imagine if when the first steam engine blew up, we said, oh, no more steam engines for a while. Or
Right.
very carefully regulated, $1 billion of regulation. You can't innovate that way. When the first airplane crashed, we said, no more innovation in airplanes, right? So we need a way to iterate on nuclear fission and eventually fusion and get them working safely, cleanly, passive failure, etc., if we're going to find our way out of the energy trap. And the best place to do that is someplace like on the moon or Mars.
Do you think that it's actually a possibility that they could get nuclear power to the point where it's not a detriment? Because what everyone's worried about is a meltdown, right?
Yeah.
And we do have these old plants that are running on this.
This is 50-year-old technology.
It's crazy because there's no ability to shut them off.
Right, very old technology. They do now have Gen 4 nuclear reactors that are passive fail-safe. So, in other words, when they fail into if you pull the plug on them, they fail into a state where there's no leakage, there's no problem.
Right.
Their default is a positive outcome, as opposed to the current ones, the old ones, where if you unplug them.
And these,
they're
even
meltdown.
these Gen 4 are just Gen 4. They're not Gen 5.
They're not Gen
6.
80, Gen 100, where we have microprocessors, right?
And that
So-
should be something that people are working towards.
I hope so. I mean, in an ideal world, we would just, the problem is if you have nuclear energy on the moon, how do you get it home?
Right.
So what you actually got to do is you got to rev it on the moon, and you're using it there maybe to launch more satellites, more rockets further out into the solar system. And that's the initial use case. But then eventually the technology gets so good, you can bring it home.
Now, I want to go back to this idea of getting people rich, that somehow or another that's going to make people happy. How do you stop the natural progression that people have of, I have got a nice Chevrolet,
Yeah.
but I really want a BMW. I've got a nice BMW. Now I want a Mercedes. I have a Mercedes. I want a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you stop that material
Right.
possession trap? Because
You can't at some level, but I think most smart people over time realize that possessions don't make them happy. Right? It's just, you have to go through that. You have to buy your stupid car to realize that it doesn't attract attractive girls. It actually just attracts other dudes who are like, hey, I like that car, man.
Right.
Like you have some expensive cars out there, some fancy cars. Tell me how much that attracts women versus men.
Well, I'm
Right.
married. Those are for me.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
enjoy machines.
Yeah, so
for
that-
me they're toys.
That's a particular thing where you enjoy machines. But I think as you get older, you just realize that there's no happiness in material possessions. Now, lack of material possessions can make you very unhappy.
Yes.
So being poor can make you unhappy, but being rich is not going to make you happy. And what happens, unfortunately, a lot of people struggle through their whole lives to make money. They make some, they're exhausted, and then they're like, well, now why am I not happy? I guess I'm just not a happy person. And smart people aren't happy. That's like a great little way to people feel better about it. They say, well, if you're smart, you're not happy, right? Whereas I posit
heard
the
that.
other way. If you're smart, you should be able to figure out how to be happy. Otherwise, you're not that smart.
Yeah, that is an offensive statement, that if you're smart, you're not happy. I've heard that before, and I just do not understand the logic of that other than self-justifying.
I understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
It comes from, if you're smart, it's usually because you thought things through and you have a very busy mind.
Yeah.
And so a busy mind can often rob you of peace of mind.
Right.
Because the peace that we seek is not peace of mind, it's peace from mind. Right? So if you look at all the crazy activities you do to be happy, right? Whether it's like trying to get laid and have an orgasm, or extreme sports, or looking at something beautiful, or taking a psychedelic, you're trying to get out of your own mind. You're trying to get your monkey mind to stop chattering at you for a moment. You're trying to get peace from the mind. And there are other better ways to do that. Most of the ways we try to get peace from mind are indirect. Whereas if you understand things, if you see things properly, you will naturally slowly develop peace from mind. Sorry if I went on a tangent there.
No, it's a good tangent. It's a good tangent because I think that oftentimes the pursuit is what's thrilling to people, and the possibility that one day they'll be able to rest and that they'll reach this goal.
That's the fundamental delusion, that there is something out there that will make me happy and
Yes.
fulfilled forever.
The golden years.
There is. It's called death.
Oh.
That'll take care of everything. That's the great leveler.
But when people look at particularly social media, like bring back to that, when you see someone who, when you see them posed in front of their mansion with their beautiful car and they're leaning against it with their designer clothes on, their expensive watch, you go, I want that. That's what I want.
What you really want is freedom. You want freedom from your money problems.
Right.
And I think that's okay. So people, once someone can solve their money problems, either by lowering their lifestyle or by making enough money, essentially what you want to get everybody to is retirement. But not retirement in the I'm 65 years old, sitting in a nursing home collecting a check retirement. Different definition. Retirement is when you stop sacrificing today for some imaginary tomorrow.
Yes.
When today is complete in and of itself, you're retiring.
Yeah.
And so how do you get there? Well, one is you can have so much money saved up that just your passive income off of that, without you having to lift a finger, covers your burn rate, keep your burn rate low, right? A second is you just drive your burn rate down to zero, you become a monk. A third is you're doing something you love. You enjoy it so much, it's not about the money.
Right.
So there are multiple ways to that path, but the most common is people just say, I need to make more money. And the kind of wealth creation that I talk about is about creating timeless principles and adapting yourself so that making money won't be an issue. And you can do it by doing what you love, right? Like we get into this model of I must work for other people, work my way up the ladder. I must do what that person is doing to make money. But really today in society, you get rewarded for creative work, for creating something brand new that society didn't even know yet that it wanted, that it doesn't know how to get other than through you. So the most powerful money makers are actually individual brands, people like yourself, or Elon, or Kanye, or Oprah, or Trump, right? These are individual brands, eponymous name brands, who themselves are leveraged. You're leveraged. You have podcast media going out to everybody. That's leveraged. The podcasts work for you when you sleep. They have knowledge that nobody else has, which is your knowledge is the knowledge of being Joe Rogan. I mean, who else is a UFC fighter and a commentator and a podcaster and a comedian and, interested in all these things and knows all these people? Can't replace you. So we have to pay you what you're worth. And
I never fought the UFC.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry. Or you're involved in that whole scene. You just have a unique set of skill sets. So because of this unique, what I call specific knowledge, because of the accountability that you have with your name, because of the leverage that you have through your media, you're a money-making machine. I'm sure at this point I could make you start over tomorrow, wipe out your bank account, you'd be rich again in no time, because you have all the skill sets. So once people have those skill sets, and the beauty is the way you've done it is you don't have any competition. There's no substitution. If Joe Rogan were to disappear off the air tomorrow, it's not like random podcaster number 12 would step in and fill that thing. No, it's just gone. So the way to get out of that competition trap is actually to be authentic. The way to retire is actually to find the thing that you know how to do better than anybody. And you know how to do that better than anybody because you love to do it. No one can compete with you if you love to do it. Be authentic, and then figure out how to map that to what society actually wants. Apply some leverage, put your name on it so you take the risks, but you gain the rewards. Have ownership and equity in what you do, and just crank it out.
I think people have to be very careful to not get trapped along the way with things that you can afford with your current lifestyle, like the way you're living and the way you're earning, but they're also imprisoning you in the fact that you are now going to have to work this 40-hour-a-week job in order to get this thing that you can afford, but now you're saddled down to this job. You're not saving, you're not putting things in a good place, and you're working for these things. Working for things as rewards is a real trap that a lot of people fall into.
It's the biggest one. And Nassim Taleb also says that there are two great addictions: heroin and a monthly salary. Right? And that's why you can't get rich renting out your time. Because even when you start
Yes.
charging more and more for your time, it's a slow upgrade loop, and then you upgrade your house at the same time, you upgrade your car at the same time, you move in the neighborhood. You really also have to get used to ignoring your peers, or upgrading or changing the definition of your peers. There are a lot of people here who are poor here, but they would be rich if they were living in Thailand and Bali. If they have the luxury of a remotely doable job, they may want to be living there and saving up money.
Well, the ignoring the peers is an issue because the keeping up with the Joneses is a real phenomenon.
Yeah, envy makes the world go round.
Yeah. And then there's a other thing that people have to avoid, even allowing their mind to think. When they're hearing what you're saying and all this logical, fantastic advice, there's these 6 dirty words. That's easy for you to say.
Yeah.
That is a terrible trap.
I mean, look, I grew up as a first-generation immigrant in Jamaica, Queens, with zero money, single mom, 2 kids, working day and night, going to school. I washed dishes. I was working catering jobs. I was mowing lawns. I was working since the age of 11, on and off here and there. Didn't have 2 cents to rub together. I had to borrow $400 to go to college. Like literally, I was short $400.
$400.
I had to find $400 in the habit. Got rejected from a job at Dunkin' Donuts. So, okay, it's not to say that it's easy. It's not easy. It's
not easy.
Actually really freaking hard.
Yeah.
It is the hardest thing you will do, but it's also the rewarding thing. Look at the kids who are born rich, no meaning to their lives.
It's a terrible place.
Your real resume is just a cataloging of all your suffering. Right? If I were to ask you to describe your real life to yourself, and you look back on your deathbed, you're going to go back and say, what are the interesting things I've done? And it's all going to be around the sacrifices that you made, the hard things that you did. Anything you're given doesn't matter. You have your 4 limbs, you have your brain, you have your head, you have your skin. That's all for granted. So you have to do hard things anyway to create your own meaning in life. Making money is a fine one. You gotta struggle. It is hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's really hard, but the tools are all available. It's all there.
There's also these traps that people sort of establish in their own mind of giving themselves excuses or giving themselves unsurmountable obstacles, insurmountable paths,
Victim mentality.
Yes.
It's somebody else's fault. It's my skin
Yes.
color's fault. It's the system's fault. Yeah, those people are sinking. I feel bad for them. I want to shake them out of it and say, actually, you can get out of it. You just have to stop thinking it's everybody
You have to
else's
alter
fault.
the perspective.
Yeah.
It's so difficult for people to do. It's one of the most difficult things for people to do is to change the way they approach reality itself.
At the end of the day, I do think, even despite what I said earlier, life is really a single player game. It's all going on in your head. Whatever you think, you believe, will very much shape your reality, both from what risks you take and what actions you perform, but also just your everyday experience of reality. If you're walking down the street and you're judging everyone, you're like, I don't like that person because their skin color, I don't like that. Like, oh, she's not attractive. That guy's fat. This person's a loser. Oh, who put this in my way? The more you judge, the more you're going to separate yourself. And you'll feel good for an instant because you feel good about yourself. I'm better than that. But then you're going to feel lonely. And then you just will see negativity everywhere. The world just reflects your own feelings back to you. Reality is neutral. Reality has no judgments. To a tree, there's no concept of right or wrong, good or bad. Right? You're born. You have a whole set of sensory experiences, stimulations, and lights and colors and sounds, and then you die. And how you choose to interpret that is up to you. You do have that choice. So this is what I meant, that happiness is a choice. If you believe it's a choice, then you can start working on it. And I can't tell you how to find it because it's your own conditionings that are making you unhappy. So you have to uncondition yourself. It's just like I can't fix your eating habits for you. You can use a general guideline, but you got to go through the hard habit forming of how to eat right. But you have to believe it's possible. And it is absolutely possible. I was miserable and I'm happy as a clam. It's not just the money. I got there before the money.
You got happy before the money.
Mostly.
How did you get happy before the money?
I started getting older, I just realized life is short and to die.
Again, trite, right?
Trite.
In many ways.
Yeah, well, Confucius had a great saying that every man has 2 lives, and the second starts when he realizes he has just one.
Wow.
And I read that, it was one of those book-dropping lines. It's like mic drop. Confucius had a lot of mic drops.
Confucius was a bad motherfucker.
He was.
That's a crazy one.
That was a great one. Or another one is next time you get sick, because everybody gets sick every now and then. It's like a happy person wants 10 person just wants one thing. Right? So it's your unlimited desires that are clouding your peace, your happiness. Have desires. You're a biological creature that stands up and says, I can do something. I move, I resist, I live. But just be very careful of your desires. It is the oldest, most trite wisdom. Desire is suffering. That's what it means, right? Every desire you have is an access where you will suffer. So just don't focus on more than one desire. The universe is rigged in such a way. It's one thing, and you focus on that, you'll get it. But everything else, you gotta let go.
Did you make a gradual shift to happiness, or was it a radical change?
It's ongoing. It's gradual. Every day.
So
gets
you're
better.
happier today than you were a month ago,
Yeah.
allegedly.
Yeah. I'm very happy these days. Deliriously so. It's actually hard for me to hang up with old people.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've made a significant shift over the period of like how many years?
For about 8 years.
8 years. Wow. And is this something that you pursued through certain books, or is it just like you made an understanding or gained an understanding in your own mind and then started pursuing it based on that understanding?
Yeah, it's very, very personal. It's basically you have to decide it's a priority. And then I tried every hack I possibly could. I used to, I tried meditation, I tried witnessing, I even tried an SSRI just to see what it would feel like.
How did it feel?
It turned me from a pessimist to an optimist, but I didn't like the physical side effects, nor did I want to be on a drug for a sustained basis. So I dropped it. And I
But
felt
it did turn you into an optimist.
Yes, at the time I used to be a pessimist. Yeah. I started doing things like I would start looking at in every moment, everything that happens, look at the bright side of something, right? And so I used to do that forcibly, and I trained it until it became second nature. So, for example, like a friend of my wife's was over, and when we were dating, and she did all these photos. She did like hundreds of photos, and then she sent them all to us. And my immediate reaction was like, why are you dumping hundreds of photos in my phone? Hundreds of photos, that's the judgment. That was my immediate reaction. And then I could say, actually, how nice of you. She sent me hundreds of photos of the one that I like. Right? There are two ways of seeing almost everything. There are a few things that are like high suffering, so you can't do that other than just saying, well, this is a teacher. Right? But I slowly worked through every negative judgment that I had until I saw the positive and not second nature to me. I also realized that like what you want is you want a clear mind, so you want to let go of thoughts. The happy thoughts disappear out of your head automatically. Very easy to let go of them. Negative thoughts linger. So if you interpret the positive in everything very quickly, you let it go. Right? You let it go much faster. Simple hacks: get more sunlight. Right? Learn to smile more. Learn to hug more. These things actually release serotonin in reverse. They aren't just outward signals of being happy. They're actually feedback loops to being happy. Spend more time in nature. These are obvious. Watch your mind. Watch your mind all day long. Watch what it does. Not judge it. Not try to control it. You can meditate 24/7. Meditation is not a sit down, close your eyes activity. Meditation is just basically watching your own thoughts like you would watch anything else in the outside world. And say, why am I having that thought? Does that serve me anymore? Is that conditioning from when I was 10 years old? Like, for example, getting ready for this podcast.
You got ready?
I didn't.
Oh,
but
good.
I did. But I did. I couldn't help it. And what happened was the few days leading up to this, my mind was just running. And normally my mind is pretty calm. It was just running and running and running. And every thought I would have, I would imagine me saying it to you. My brain couldn't help but rehearse what it's doing. It's just rehearsing all the time to talk to you. And then I was even rehearsing, telling you about the rehearsal. Right? So it's all playing all these meta games. And I was just like, shut up, stop it, what is going on? And it took me a while to figure out, oh yeah, you know what it is? When I was a kid in Queens and I had no money and I had nothing and I needed to save myself, the way I got out was by sounding smart. Not being smart, sounding smart. That was the skill I perfected. So I am hardwired to always rehearse things so I will sound smart. It's a disease. It keeps me from being happy. So, but when you see that, when you realize that, when you understand something, then it naturally calms you down. So after that, I stopped rehearsing as much.
Wow.
But it's still a trained habit.
That is a really interesting point, that you want to sound smart. That many people do that, and especially young people. When you see someone who is smart or someone who appears smart, they say smart things. Right. God, I want to sound smart. I want people to think about me the same way I think about that person.
That is my disease. That is my feeling. is what
Yeah.
clutters my mind. The thing I have to ask myself now is, if I can, would I still be interested in learning this thing if I could never tell anybody? That's how I know it's real. That's how I know it's something I actually want.
That's a common thing, though. I know I suffered from that when I was young. The desire to sound smart. It's very common.
Well, all of us start out, everything you're a winner now in your life. It's because you were a loser at some point.
Right.
If you had gotten all the girls, if you had all the money, if you had everything you wanted, you were good looking in junior high or high school, you wouldn't have done anything in your life. And you would have peaked early. It's like the Bruce Springsteen Glory Days song, right? You would have married your high school sweetheart, you'd be living in your hometown, you'd be a manager at the local McDonald's, whatever the first dream job you had. Thank God we didn't all get what we wanted when we were young. Right? Or we would be trapped in that. So you have to be able to break out of where you came from.
That is interesting too about people who peak too early. Or maybe those people that peak too early can do the Elon Musk thing, just abandon it and start something new, and then learn the joys of sucking at something.
Yeah, and actually in our profession, especially when you're high visibility, the problem with peaking is that you then get drowned in death of 1,000 cuts. People have expectations of, hey Joe, can you come to my event? Hey Joe, can you look at my business plan? Hey Joe, can you give me advice on this? Can you talk to my friend? Can you come to this podcast? You're just being assaulted.
What a road, huh? This is cool.
So you have no time to start over with anything. So you have to ruthlessly disappoint them, eliminate the clearness, drop all the emails, not even respond to the emails. It's the only way you're going to start over with anything.
Yeah, and we talked about this, and I love your approach to meetings. If they're not life or death. I'm the same way. I avoided a good one recently, and this was someone that was just tracking me down as a high-profile person in a big organization, and I'm like, can we just talk on the phone? And then we talked on the phone. There was nothing to say. It was just that they wanted to get me in the office. And
yeah, meetings should really be phone calls. Phone calls should be emails. And emails should just be texts, right?
Many of them, right?
With meetings, I despise meetings. I used to own the domain idon'tdocoffee.com. I eventually let it go, but I used to respond from Naval at I don't do coffee.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But it was a little bit of a jerk move. But really where it comes from is when I was young, one of my principles was I knew I had to make money. It was my overwhelming desire. And one of the things I did was I said, okay, I'm never going to be worth more than what I think I'm worth. Okay, no one's going to pay me more than what I think I'm worth. So what am I worth? So I picked an hourly rate for myself that I was worth. And I said, I'm never going to squander my time for less than this. So originally it was $500 an hour, then I upgraded to $5,000 an hour. It's ludicrous, but pick an aspirational hourly rate. Aspirational has to be a little ludicrous. And then what I would do is if I have to return something, I'm standing in line to return something, and it's below my hourly rate, I'll throw it away. If I have to, or give it away. If I have to do some task and I can hire somebody to do it for less than my hourly rate, I'll hire them. And so I just became extremely jealous of my time, which doesn't mean you can't have fun. Rest, leisure, spending time with your friends and family, that's all great. Don't count that. But if you're doing anything you don't want to do, which is the definition of work, it's a set of things that you have to do that you don't want to do. If you're working, it better be for your hourly rate. Otherwise, don't do the work. And so once it came out of that, then I just realized the cost of meetings. The cost of meetings is so high, especially given all the people who are in there, right? One person's talking, 7 people listening. You're literally just dying an hour at a time. So you have to just drop non-urgent meetings and figure out how to be more efficient with them if you're going to do anything great. The extreme example is business travel. Getting on a plane to fly half around the world for one meeting, which never amounts to anything, and then like wasting your whole little life there and then flying back. So about 5 years ago I resolved I am never going to travel for business. And I haven't traveled for business since. I only travel if the travel experience will be so entertaining and joyous because I have friends or it's a place I want to see or whatever, that it will be complete in and of itself, because I know that whatever the business meeting it came from is never worth it.
Wow.
And actually that principle applies larger than just travel. It applies to life in general. One of the secrets to happiness is to really embrace what you're doing in that moment. That's trite, but where that comes from is saying, I only want to do actions that are complete in and of themselves. Right? If I'm looking for some ulterior motive down the line, it's not going to materialize. And if you think it is, maybe even if it does, it'll be very short-lived. Anything you wanted in your life, whether it was a car, or whether it was a girl, whether it was money, when you got it, a year later, you were back to zero. Your brain had hedonically adapted to it. You were looking for the next thing.
That's a great statement. Hedonically adapted. That is what happens to people. You get accustomed to whatever it is. I realized that when I first got a new apartment, it was a nice apartment. After a while, I got used to it. I was like, oh, okay, this is just an apartment. It's just where I live. I'm used to it. It's nice, but I'm used to it.
Yeah, we all go through this learning. It's it's riding the Ferris wheel of life. It's like you get at the bottom, like, oh, I want to get to the top. It's so exciting. You ride it up, you get a little dopamine rush, you get a little serotonin. Then you ride it back down as that wears off. Then you need another high. Then you ride it back up, ride it back down. In fact,
if they don't know how to ride faster on this road, they shouldn't be on this road. Especially if you're two up. My God. A big old 900-pound motorcycle.
get it, the harder it goes to go back up.
So what lights your fire now? Like what gets you motivated to do things and to act?
Art.
Art.
This is art.
Oh, okay.
Art is just creativity. It's just anything that's done for its own sake. So what are the things that are done for their own sake? There's nothing beyond loving somebody, creating something, playing. Art, to me, creating businesses is play. I create businesses early stage because it's fun, because I'm into the product. Even when I invest, it's because I like the people, I like hanging out with them, I learn from them, and the product is really cool.